Hello and welcome to Upward Way. I am your host, Marlon Walters. My guest today is a gospel recording artist, Joshua Ali. Welcome to Upward Way.
Thank you so much. I am very honored to be on. Very excited to share about this new song. Thank you.
Yes, well, it's good to have you, and as you say, you'll share about this new song. But of course, um, the audience may not know who is this Joshua Ali. So could you share with our audience a little about your background and how you came to be a Christian? Maybe we can start
Sure.
right there.
Yes. Yeah. Always love sharing about that part. So yeah, I'm my name is Joshua Ali. I'm from the Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago. And I do reside in Canada with my family, with my wife, and actually, two boys. One is 2 years, and then one is on the way, probably in the next 2 months. So, but at the age of 6, I believe, it could be 6 or 7. My mom and dad, they are in ministry still. But anyways, my dad has been in ministry for 40 years. He's been doing this for a very long time. So I've grown up into the church. I've grown up in the church, I would say. So I've been around ministry. I've been around music. I've been around the whole thing. And but you tell yourself you're PK, you're past this kid. Are you really saved? And at that age, I was hearing my dad preach at a youth service, right? And he was saying it doesn't, once you're at the age of accountability, it is up to you, right, to give your life to Jesus, right? And that Friday, he played, it was a movie night for the whole entire community and had a big screen outside. And the movie was entitled A Thief in the Night. So that was a very interesting movie. Scared me to the core because it talks about, certain people getting left behind or certain people being caught up to meet Jesus in the air. And I was just like, God, I don't want to miss you. I don't want to miss when you return and if you should return. So I just want to live for you fully. And after the movie, my dad had an altar call and I ran straight up. No, I'm gonna be honest and transparent. I was battling. Um, I am the pastor's kid. I'm gonna go to the altar. Everyone's gonna look at me and say, "Ah, that guy is sinning," right? But I, at that age, I really fought those noise and went to that altar and said, Lord, I don't care what my name is, or what people are looking at me. I just want you and I right now. And that was the a Friday night. That was the night I gave my life to Christ. And from there on, I've been in music from since I was 4 years old as well. So I was the official drummer of the church at 4 years old, right? I did not believe that until I saw the photos and until I saw most of the elderly people that surrounded me in Trinidad that always talked about it. And I was like, okay, so it's real. I said, okay. I don't even remember one inch of it. um, I do remember my uncles, all of them and aunts, they are musically talented, and I was always surrounded by that. So that's just that timeline from when I gave my life to Jesus.
That's great, as you say, PK pastor's kid. I know there would have been lots of expectations, but as you say, it was
Yes,
just
yes.
watching a movie, and that was we could say, the catalyst that
Yeah.
brought about the change and the transformation. So,
Mhm.
I mean, you have already touched on a bit of your musical journey. So, I guess I could
Mhm.
just throw this question on you. So, how would you describe the impact of your music. And this time, I'm going to start with how has your music impacted you yourself as an individual? And then maybe, if you wish, you may touch a little on, what has been people's feedback to your music.
Hmm. Yeah, man, I would say the message that comes to my heart and to downloading into my mind, it is for me first. It is for my family first. It's not me saying, hey, all right, time to write a new hit, time to write a new hit song, right? It's not, I'm not about that life. I'm about, God, what are you saying right now in this moment for your people? But he technically speaks to me first and says, son, either this or that or that or that. So, for the I had an experience. I mean, if I go through the experience, we'll be talking for hours. But I had an experience back in 2011, and this kind of shaped where my music and how my music became now, and how it has impacted me because of that one experience, that one night that I had a some may call it a vision, some may call it a near-death experience, some may call it an out-of-body experience. I was not in the hospital. I was in my home. The only person that could be a witness to this is my mom. So I don't have any medical records to show that, hey, this had happened, but I know that experience was real as it is. And that experience, or I would say, let me remove the word experience and say encounter with God was that was back in 2013. And that is where I realized that, okay, whatever I do with the message or whatever I say to people, whatever I write, whatever I play, I'm going to represent this particular message. And that message is the most simplest message. Jesus is coming soon. That's it. That's it. And from there on in 2014 is when I started to release music, started to write and actually produce after being in the background that year. That's when it started. And I produced and write for me to say, hey, this is what the Lord is telling you right now, XYZ, whatever songs that is. And then what happens is that when that song is completed, when that song is made, and I listened to it over again because you get lost in the production, you get lost in the writing. Of course, you get excited about producing, getting the right tones and all that stuff. But beyond that, the message stays, son, I'm speaking to you right now. And the message that I gave you will reach people that I want to reach. So it is a selfless um, action, right? Is where I'm not trying to write a hit. Again, I'm going back to that. I'm obeying, being obedient to the master that, hey, this time the Lord is dropping in my spirit. He's coming soon. All right. I wrote a couple songs. I think one song is called Rapture, but that was featured Blessed Messenger from the Caribbean. Then the other one was Are You Ready? Featured Sean Daniel from the Caribbean as well, right? And and there's probably a couple more as well. Was one called Invitation, and those are very Caribbeanized song for the Caribbean. But I was always shaped into as we call today worship, right? The beautiful musical slow or praise what Elevation or Maverick and these guys do. That was always me, but the Caribbean, it's in your blood. So there's gonna be one day or the moment that you will just get roped into that, and I was, and it was fun. But now today, I have shifted my journey into that position, right? Because I believe that Caribbean season was, I think it is over, or I think it's on pause. I don't know what God is doing. I am just following his footsteps. And that's why this song you made it. I dropped this song you made it, and it's not a Caribbean song. It's a very pop gospel, Christian song, but that talks about a journey. It talks about a little bit of my journey, about my family's journey, right? So I just, I'm very, these songs bless me, man. I have a song called Don't, actually, the English term would be Don't Worry, but in the Caribbean, I'm sure you would also be familiar. Don't worry, right? And and every time that song plays, um, it is just blessed me, man. Because I know every day of my life there's worries, there's trouble that come at your door. And my son, he's such a blessing, but he loves to listen to daddy's music, and as soon as he plays that song, man, it's just I sit there and it just calms me. I'm like, hey, the Lord telling me right now, don't worry, it'll be all right.
Amen. Fresh out of, would say, John chapter 14, let not your heart be troubled. But it's good, as you
Yes,
say,
sir.
having that experience where you're reminded that Jesus is coming soon, because we
Yes.
can lose sight of the fact that he's coming soon, especially if things seem to be going well in our lives. So it is really good that that
Mhm.
has been your experience. And, I listen to you share, and except for your son, everything you have been saying is how the music has impacted your own life. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna give you a chance in a bit to talk about this new project. I think it was released last December. So
Yes.
let me just use this one. What is one message you'd want
Mhm.
your those who listen to your music, to get from the messages that you might be putting out? So if they miss everything, what is one message you'd want them to actually leave with?
Yeah. I think this one real easy. This I would say, if you can't understand some of the Caribbean stuff and you just hear this one part, just hear that Jesus is coming soon. That's it. I think it is what I was called to do. Now there's not a lot of people who are called to do such. It is a heavy weight. It is something that you don't just wake up and say, "All right, I feel like I'm called to be this guy to definitely encourage." Um, that the master is returning. Now he could be returning in 20 years or 30 years, or he could be returning in whatever time. We can't put a time to it, but um, take away anything from my songs, and I think because most of them talks about it, especially even this recent song as well. Not just physically in this earth making it, but it's going to be one day that we're going to say we made it. When you see the Father, when you see that you have made it, that's just going to be a massive celebration, right? So just take away that one thing is that the Master is coming soon.
Yes, yes, yes. Indeed, it is. We can't lose sight of that. So I
Yes.
want you to walk us through now this, as you say, your latest song. It's not,
Yes.
a Caribbean song. And in case many might be wondering, why is Joshua talking about Caribbean song? I mean, that kind of a thing. It's just that, when you think about Trinidad and Tobago in terms of the, let's say, the authentic sounds, you'll have calypso, you'll
Mhm.
have soca, chutney, and steel pan. So he's saying that
Yes.
this release, it's not necessarily that, but it's a song where it doesn't matter which geographical area or which nationality or which ethnicity you are from, then
Yes.
you can relate to this song because it's not skewed toward any one specific
Mhm.
audience. So yes, what's the full story behind this song, and why should we really pay attention to it, and of
Yeah.
course, anything else that comes later on.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Back in 2014, I was approached by a good friend of mine who did the video recording recently for this, and he said, "Hey, hey, Josh, are you able to do a track for a documentary. I'm like, bro, yeah, man. Um, he says, brace yourself though, because it's an actor from Hollywood. I said, whoa, whoa, hold up, what? And I said, okay. Um, I would like to meet with this person to see what they want because I know these creatives are very particular, right? So we met and her name is Samantha Walks, and she is in the a show on Prime called Cross, and the actors on that cast they were, they, she wanted to tell their story, her story about going through a moment in time where rejection was what they saw all the time. And then after not giving up, in their field, in their career, making it to the big films successfully, they wanted to celebrate. And she wanted to celebrate them herself. So she said, "Hey, Josh, you have 2 days, um, basically one night, to produce, to write, to mix, to master um this whole song." I was like, huh? All right. I said, you know what? The part about me I don't like, but I like it. I like a challenge. So I said, yes, okay, let's do it. And I know I couldn't do it by myself, so I called my friend from Tobago, Joel Thomas from Tobago, and I said, hey, bro, I cannot do this alone. I need your help to write this song, right? And now here's the funny part. I misread what the actor said. No, I haven't said this anywhere yet, right? Because it's so funny. I misread what the actor said. The actor said she wanted music for for a documentary. I took it as she wanted a song for the documentary. So I went ahead and made a whole song. And she was blown away. She said, "Wait, you guys made a whole song?" And I was like, yeah, that's what you wanted, right? Yes, but not to the fullest. And it's like, well, hey, we got too excited. We were in the moment. We really wanted to tell your story. But it ended up being extremely over perfectly done for her documentary. In her words, I received a lot of messages. It was even I think it was even heard from the president of Amazon Prime, and the people that she shared it with were very like, oh my gosh, wow, you have a whole thing going on here. This is amazing, and and we I didn't sleep. I remember I was in my basement there, recording after 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Man, I have neighbors, brother. I do have neighbors. I was just ignoring everything around me because I was so focused. The My friend from Tobago, he's sleeping on himself. We're just like, all right, let's keep moving. Let's take a break. Anyways, it was a journey. It was a journey. But that song was actually called Long Way Home. It wasn't called You Made It. It was called Long Way Home because that was the name of her project, right? And it was done. They all had a watch party. The actors, they all had a watch party. I heard some of them cried. Some of them were like, "Yeah, yeah, this is real," right? But in my own personal journey, I could not have written that song without telling a story from my heart and what I have been through, with my wife, with the miscarriages that she had, and how tough that was on us, and God blessing us with a son. And then before, because we just have about 3, 4 months again for this for this beautiful baby boy, two boys, to to meet him. But before that, we had another miscarriage again. So I think two miscarriages, another two miscarriages. So it was just back and forth with God. Like, God, listen, man, I can do two things right now. I can blame you, and I can just walk away from you right now because we are hurting, and you could have stopped this. You could have healed my wife. You could have made this happen. And then the sad part about it is that the couple hours that my wife heard the heartbeat for the first time is when she lost the baby. It's a very, very sad story. But I would say through the fire, and that's one of the lines in the song, right? Through the fire, I'll be moving on, is because Jesus was that third man in the fire. Because, I'm counting me and my wife, we were in that fire, and there was a third man. The Hebrew boys say there was a fourth man. For us, there was a third man in the fire. He took us and he brought us through it. Now, he didn't take us out of it, eh? He brought us through it. And we came out stronger in that moment of grief. We didn't choose to curse God and die, as Job, as as that story of Job, but we chose to sing of God's goodness, and we did write a song together called Goodness. That is out already, but from that story till the other story, because that it was the same year of writing that song, is when we had another miscarriage, right? Um, so I just took that story and just sat writing. And my friend, he took that story because he was probably more or less like 60% of writing the song. I was more like 40%. I was more or less saying, hey, let's, because I can't do everything, right? So I have to try to produce and mix in 2 days, and he's gonna have to also focus on doing his part as well. But and then anyway, so Long Way Home was the name of the song. And then a year after, I said, you know what? I want to produce a song in its fullness, not just for a documentary, but to tell, because in 2025 is when we had that another miscarriage, right? So now I said, okay, it's time to produce this song fully because it has not been out. No one but the actors from that movie have seen it. So I said, okay, it's time to get this out. And we I wrote a little bit more to it. My friend wrote a little bit more to it as well. We got a beautiful full song, produced a little bit more. I kid you not, I had 30 demos of this song, back and forth, sending it to good producers. Hey, does this sound
Oh,
good? Hey, does this sound good? Hey, does that sound good? The guy who mastered the song was Casey Phillips. He's from Trinidad and Tobago. He probably mixed and produced many, many, many songs for Marshall and many songs for all these guys. But he also helped produce for Drake recently. But he was a great help in this project because he's very wise. And he's very stern with it too. He say, hey, change that one time. So there was a process in getting the right frequencies, the right everything. But when it was done, brother, man, it was just an excitement to get the video done and the release date, and that happened. It released, and I've been getting so many messages, so many testimonies of God's goodness, and there's more testimonies coming out. I'm recording more to release because people are now taking it for themselves and said, "That's my song, that's my story." So, anyways, okay. I'm That's the full story.
Yeah, well, I love stories and I try not to interrupt. But as you
That's
mentioned
okay.
two things. So
Yes.
I'll go back to the last one first. That
Yes.
there's a process involved, and that is something we always need to be mindful of, especially when we have
Mhm.
plans laid out. That there's a process through which things go. But you spoke about handling grief, dealing with grief, having
Yes.
as you say, a miscarriage. So that is you would say a part of your own life, there, and then expecting it will blossom, and then um, instead of holding life in your hand, death comes. So
Mhm.
two things, how do you? I know it's gonna be difficult, but how do you really? Well, how does an individual, and of course you're gonna answer person, really handle grief, and then
Mhm.
how do you help someone to understand that even as a minister, someone who walks close to God, this is something that sometimes we face. So it doesn't mean that because you are close to God, you can't have
Mhm.
bad
Mhm.
things happening. So how do you, as I say, handle the concept of grief in your own personal life, and then for someone who thinks that you're gonna you'll escape these kind of
Mhm.
struggles, how what do you say to such an individual?
Yeah. See how I can best answer that.
I
The
mean, it's not
first
even
one,
best. It's just would say an organic
it
way.
it is it is it's going to be very very organic because I've not just miscarriage, I've lost family members too, right? I got their close. I think I recently lost a good friend of mine as well, and grief
So
is
my
not.
condolences.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but it's not an easy thing, and we all have to go through that someday. Sorry, because the moment we were birthed into this world is the moment we start to get older, right? Our bodies are not going to live on forever. We're going to have to go through that. If it's someone close to us, or if you hear about it, or even for yourself, right? And handling grief is the worst thing ever. And I know many could relate to that, right? You have to cry. You can't hold back your tears. You can't fight it. It's something we have to go through. Jesus, when he heard, I think it was either Lazarus or John the Baptist, Jesus had to pause and he had to go by himself away from people and he had to let it out. He had to cry. Um, and that's a human thing, right? Because we have feelings, we love people, we grow with them. Um, and for instance, like a miscarriage is I think it's a for me for us was a little bit harder because it was yours, right? And your baby and your you want to plan. We were planning, man, and I think it was around COVID or ending of the COVID time because I could not have gone into the hospital to hear the heartbeat as well. It just I had to stay outside. My wife had to go inside and hearing that heartbeat. And we even saw the ultrasound. We still have it till this day, where the baby was jumping and doing backflips and all that stuff. It was beautiful. And we could have saw the heartbeat, and then that's when when we came home from that ultrasound is when my wife woke up and had to run because she felt the baby lost, and we had to rush her back to the hospital, and they confirmed it was a miscarriage. And man, my wife screamed, cry. I was in tears. It just because it was our first baby, right? And we named that baby Joy. And how we handle that is that, we stuck we stood together, right? And we we opened the word and we forced ourselves. I'm going to be honest. We forced ourselves to say, God, but you're still good. You're still good. And in tears and in that hard moment, he is still good. In the bad moments, he is still good. In the grief moments, he is still good. In the good times, he's still good. That's very hard for some people, and that's understandable. But God, the scripture says, God, this just dropped in me, God is close to the brokenhearted, right? So we just found ourselves very close to him at that moment, and has shaped us. And but for grief, nobody cannot tell how to handle it. But man, when you go through it, you need to go through it with either if it's with somebody else, or don't be alone, or cry it out, reach out to God for help. I think it's very important to do that, right? And yeah, I'm just going off a base of scripture as well and experience of how Jesus had to cry. He had emotions about, I think, again, either Lazarus or John the Baptist, right? And he had to let that out, and that's what we did for days, and sometimes even till this day, because this is the same month of I think this is the same month we lost the baby. I think it was 2 days ago, right? So we had to go through that moment, but we also had to let go and let God, right? And that's difficult for a lot of people to do, but God will give you the strength, right? And yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah, as you say, it's difficult, and there's no one answer, and actually there's no
Mhm.
right answer. But as you say,
Correct.
you had the force to say God is good. It reminds me of my experiences. I mean, I didn't have any loss in that sense, but my experiences in
Hmm.
2024, where I was saying to a cousin that I didn't really know her before, but
Hmm.
there was a family group that was created, and we were exchanging. And I said, let me just say hi. And one day we had a chat, and I said, in life sometimes, on one hand, so many things are going great, but on the other
Hmm.
hand, so many things are just going, it's just horrible, atrocious. And someone would look at
Hmm.
you and they say, "Whoa, I wish I had your life," but they wouldn't understand what the other side is like. So
Yeah, yeah.
I can't, I don't know what your experience was, but at least I can, get a sense that it's not all going well, but you still can see the hand of God guiding. So
Amen.
I mean, there's a lot more we can really talk about, but I'm just gonna allow you to to share with the listeners. How do they get in contact with you?
Yes.
Are you just emailed? Are you on social media? That kind of a thing.
Yes. If to get in contact with me personally, I look at my Facebook messages, so and Instagram. I think that might be faster for most people that are on social media. So Joshua Ali Music right across the board for TikTok, for Facebook, for Instagram, and for YouTube as well. So yeah.
Right. Well, I want to say thanks, Joshua, for taking the time out to share with the listening audience, just a little bit of your story. But even though it's
Yes.
short, it has really been impactful. And of course, it has been impacting my life so far. So
Amen.
before you go, I just want to say to the audience, take some time, to check out his music. And if you are so impressed, then, make your purchases, all of that. So again, thanks for taking the time out to come. We have been listening and talking with Joshua Ali. He's a gospel recording artist. And Joshua, before you go, do you have any parting words to share with the listeners?
Yeah, stay strong. Don't listen to or don't be too alarmed for what the world is going on. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but just keep your eyes focused on Jesus and everything will be okay. Yeah.
Keep your eyes focused on Christ and everything will be okay. You've been in tune to Upward Way. Do join us again next week when we'll have another interesting guest sharing his or her story of faith. Of course, We are asked to subscribe to the weekly episodes. You can go to the Apple, AWR, Loud Voice, Spotify, Stitcher, or Podcast Guru apps. Our Podway is also now on Facebook and YouTube. So go there, click like, leave a comment. Until then, I'm Marlon Walters saying goodbye. May God bless you.